Just want to introduce everybody to Sharan.
Hello.
Sharan is practice owner in Manchester. They are opening a second site as a squat, which is a couple of doors down from where the existing practice is. And what I asked Sharan is today is to come because a lot of you guys are right at the beginning process. Where Sharan and Alan have started from, how do you get to that point when you're growing, when you're scaling, getting to a second site, essentially? So, being an existing practice owner, Sharon's owned the practice longer than I have, has more experience in it, more experience with teams, people, and, has a bit more knowledge on that base. So Sharon has very kindly agreed to come up and have an open conversation about their practice ownership journey and what's led them to get into where they are today. So thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you. So to answer your question, is it possible to acquire a practice with zero funding? The answer is yes, because that's exactly what me and Alan did back in 2017. So quick recap. So I've been a dentist since 2008, come out of DF and went straight into my practice that we own now. Worked as an associate for a number of years in NHS, and then decided the opportunity came up for me and Alan to acquire it together. At that point, me and Alan didn't actually know each other very well. We were colleagues, but the person who was selling said to us both, I need to sell for XYZ reasons. Do you want to buy it? And we looked at each other and we went, go on then. And we did. And that's exactly what we did, right? So we got 100% funding based on the fact of our goodwill, essentially, because I'd been at the practice for, God, at that point, maybe nearly 10 years. Alan had been there for maybe about 7 at that point. So we took a huge leap of faith. Alan's parents and him came to my parents' house because we were still living at home at that stage. My mum was very Punjabi about things, and she was very much, so why do you want to do this together? You don't know each other. Like, she was really properly grilling him, and he was just like, whoa, I've just come to say hi. And but we did it together, and we ran it for a while as an NHS practice, probably because we were scared of change. The thing about NHS is this, right? And this is my experience. This is all my lived experience, by the way, okay? I am not egotistical enough to give any of you people advice, because you're obviously really smart, educated, brave people because you're trying to set up your own squats. But from my experience, the thing that kept us in NHS dentistry for so long was fear of change. Taking that leap felt massive, and it was so scary. And it's kind of like, what do they call it? Stockholm syndrome, where you kind of get to like your captor, you get to feel safe in that environment of NHS. And there came a point when COVID happened, and I'll be because I am very honest, I got really sick twice trying to run an NHS practice, trying to pay all the bills, trying to do really good quality dentistry that we are taught to do under a very difficult framework, and it nearly killed me. It was an awful time, and that was the time in our practice's life that actually we didn't perform well. We were treading water, we were feeling like we're drowning, and it took a lot of soul searching and a lot of really difficult conversations, internal conversations, to go, actually, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore, and we have to make a change. And to climb out of that took a lot of self-exploration, it took a lot of soul searching. It took a lot of spirit, a lot of strength to go, you know what, we'll hand back the contract and let's do it. And if we fail on our own terms. If we succeed on our own terms. And thank God we're succeeding. So my advice to everybody here is take a leap of faith. You are all strong. I mean, some people have probably left their home countries. You've come here to settle for it, to have a better life, right? You've probably experienced being away from your family, your loved ones. You've come to set up a life here. Please don't be scared, especially if you've got the right kind of support. It is achievable. And I tell you this, right, if I can do, because I'm not the brightest in the room, if I can do it, you can do this. You can, you have to, but you just have to have a lot of emotional courage. You have to recognize what you're good at in terms of your leadership. Listen, Alan takes care of all of the business crap. Right? If it was up to me, my business would have tanked like 3 times over, because I would have had like gold taps inside the bathrooms and like, do you know what I mean? And I would have had like the most fanciest chair and like not have enough patience, because I like I like the zhuzhiness. I like to make it look nice. Well, you see what it's going to look like, don't you?
You like it bijou.
It is, but, you know, Alan, but that's why we work really well as a team, because he sort of handles that kind of stuff and then I'm more towards the leadership. But I think one of the strongest things that you can cultivate is your team, and start early and hire people for their character and their values. They might not be the finished article, but try to look beyond maybe an initial lack of confidence or the fact that they don't really know what they're doing, because neither do you. Do you know what I mean? You're all starting out from a position of zero. So give that grace to your team as well and learn together, because I think that's hugely important. Because if they see that you're human and you're fallible and you're going to get stuff wrong, you can't be too hard on them when they don't do exactly how you want them to. So he's a perfect example of that. So this is Owen. So you know how Raghav talked in the beginning about Michelangelo and like creating your David? Create your own David first, so then you can start creating other Davids. So he started with us 5 years ago as a trainee dental nurse. He's now our operations manager. You know, we integrated CareStack into our business. I couldn't have done it without him. I couldn't, so he deserves his flowers. He deserves his flowers. Do you know something, right? I am toxically optimistic. You have to be. To be in business, you have to be toxically optimistic. You've got to be the one that brings the weather to your team. You have to be, if you've had a shit morning, your car's broken down or the dog's been sick on the carpet or you're stuck in traffic or whatever, you have to, before you step into that practice, this is what I've learned, because I used to be the one that used to bring the bad weather sometimes. I used to go, do you know what, before I step into my surgery now, I think, Sharon, get a grip of yourself, because they deserve the best version of you. And do you know what? By 10 o'clock, by 11 o'clock, you've forgotten what's happened in the morning and you can carry on and you can go about your day in a really positive way. So I think that's important.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So you can all see how passionate Sharon is.
I ain't got nothing else to do. That's why you see my life's boring. I'm obsessed with being a practice owner. I love it. I can't say that I don't enjoy it. Because you know something, I've seen the flip side. I've seen how terrible it is to, no disrespect to the NHS, but I have been an NHS associate to see how much it can cripple you mentally. So I think sometimes you have to really be broken down in order to think, is this really what my career is going to be like for the rest of my life? Am I really going to do this for another 15 years?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly why I quit my job when I was working back at my position in mixed practice, because I was making 15 to 20 grand a month quite happily every single day. And I was doing loads of implant work, but in between that, I was still seeing about 40 checkups every single day. And one day I had a list of 40 checkups, and I got to the end of the day, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, you can't.
Like, I was just so bored, and it was like, no, never again.
The thing is, it's a really toxic combination, because it's boring and stressful at the same time, you know. And I think the kind of work that, when I graduated as a dentist, I didn't really have a particular feeling, I only want to be a private dentist. I was just happy to get a job, to be honest, right? And my first job, I just stayed there because I loved the people, and the people that started there all those years ago are still there now. But for us, dentistry was very difficult. It was different, sorry. You do your best for every single patient within a very difficult framework. But when I bought it, then I realized, like, shit, we can't actually make any money and treat people the way they should be treated. So it's a struggle. Like, we had a very different struggle when we went from NHS to private. Making that transition was also extremely difficult, because the patients struggled to see the enhanced value of us going private, because we already delivered such a high standard of care under the NHS. When we went private, they thought, well, now you're just being greedy. Oh, I've had it all, me. I had a patient who came in and booked a checkup just before we went private, to come in and tell me to my face, in my chair, in my practice, and he waved his finger in my face and went, you are a greedy bitch, and I've come here to tell, I've had my car scratched. Yeah, just to tell me, because you know something, that I have been there for such a long time, that they feel, I know that some patients felt betrayed by us going private, because they felt that I can't afford to see her anymore. But at what point do you sacrifice so much that actually you start getting ill again? So that's when you have to start thinking, okay, is this worth it? Is it worth making myself sick? Is it worth not being able to have the energy to get out of bed on Saturday and enjoy a weekend because you're so done because Monday to Friday just kills you? So that I am 40, I know I don't look it, but I'm 42 years old, right? And I have seen every facet of dentistry that can be offered in this country. I've seen NHS, I've been an associate, I've been an NHS practice owner. Now we're coming out the other side and we are private business owners who treat their staff well, treat their patients well. We're growing. We could never have done that in an NHS framework. So whoever's working in NHS practice right now, don't be scared of making the leap. Because you know the thing that used to keep me awake at night, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen when those letters go out? And do you know what happened? Nothing. Nothing. The people who wanted to say something said something. We got a bit of shit on Facebook about it. The local community started to, oh, they've sold out now, they're sellouts. But I can sleep better at night knowing that I'm charging the appropriate amount of money for the time, effort and passion we put into looking after our patients. And that's the bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack there, and we'll go through it bit by bit. And I want to jump on the first bit, especially around fear. Raga, if you can put your input into this. And I always find this fascinating as well, looking back at, you know, what our parents have done. And obviously this doesn't apply to everyone, but when I do look back and I think, you know, Dad came from India, couldn't speak a word of English, age of 14, and they came, they built businesses, new world, new land, didn't know a thing. And they just did it. Like, they were scared, but they did it. And then sometimes I look back and think, well, we're so privileged because they did that. And we have so much, we have money, we have all the things that they never had. And then sometimes I think, well, actually, we're still more scared than what they were when they did that. And it makes you wonder between the generations, what has happened in that? Because now sometimes I feel like we're more scared to do more stuff than what they were willing to do and jump on a plane and walk into a country where you can't even speak the language. And it's crazy. I don't understand the psychology behind that. Raga, you can probably expand on that. It'd be great to have your input on it. But I do feel sometimes it's just we don't push ourselves enough because now we've grown up a little bit like that and we're privileged.
I mean, I think when you've got so much to lose, you're coming to a different country and you've got very little support, the pressure of that, of what's on your toes to succeed makes you want to succeed. You ain't got no choice because you haven't got a mum or dad to back you up in this country. You have to succeed. It's that or nothing, you know. Whereas here, I think some of it comes from actually being so comfortable in your discomfort because the UDAs are giving you a stable income. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. And you know, I think that comfort is actually more crippling and more disabling than actually that push of like, I've got to make this happen for my family. I've got to make it happen because people are relying on me to put food on the table. I think it's this, I don't want to call it apathy because I never felt like I was apathetic about anything. But when you do become comfortable, that to me, that was more scary. And it took me getting really ill to think, oh God, maybe I want something better for myself. And I think that's what forced me to change. And I think, don't wait to get ill. Don't wait to get depressed. Don't wait to feel like there's no way out of this. Do it now. And everybody in this room is obviously a lot younger than I am. Do it now. Don't be scared. That, you know, that narrator in your head that tells you can't do it, flip the switch and flip the narrative. And instead of letting that voice in your head tell you can't do it, acknowledge that feeling for a second because it is scary. It is scary because it's everything on the line. But as soon as you acknowledge it, put it to bed and then flip it in the other way and think to myself, no, I am going to be toxically positive about my future and my life and the livelihood of my children, and I'm going to give them a good life and a good education. And you bring that weather to your practice, and it trickles down. You know, ultimately it trickles down from the top all the way to not the bottom, because nobody's on the bottom. But if your team see you being proactive, they see you treating your patients with compassion, if they see genuine sincerity in what you're doing and you're authentic about it, they've got no choice but to come along with you. And the people who don't want to, the people that are there just for a 9 to 5, you'll either have to get rid of them or they'll go on their own. Because that's another thing that we've learned. I've had to exit a few people that don't fit the new it's a shock, you know, when your boss all of a sudden thinks, right, I'm not going to do this anymore, and you sit down and you have a conversation about how you want things to be, the standards you want, how you want things to change. Some people can't get on board with it. They can't, and they're the people that you have to give a chance to. Give them a chance, always give a chance, but if they can't get on board, they're the ones that you have to manage out your practice. And that has also been a very difficult thing that we did, but it was so worth it, because the moment those toxic people leave your business, there is no hiding for it. It allows other people to flourish. You know, they're the people who wanted to do more, but, you know, we'll be like, oh, what are you kissing her ass for? Do you know what I mean? What are you kissing them? What are you kissing her ass for? You just, you know, you're just a do-gooder, aren't you? Do you know, once those people go, it allows everybody to just relax. They take a deep breath. Everybody's on the same side, and you all grow upwards together. So this is why I say about culture and teams and recruiting the right people early on. Hire for character, hire for values. They're not going to know everything straight away, but you can teach them. If you've got something about you, you can teach them. That's the only way it can be. You can teach someone how to use CareStack. Do you know what I mean? You can teach someone how to do the payroll. You can teach someone how to do the takings, but you can't teach decency, and that's what you should hire on, in my opinion. No, talk to them. Get those. So we put it on Indeed, and I will do lots and lots of interviews. I don't mind doing interviews because you can tell that I like talking, right? So I talk to all my Indeed, Facebook, Instagram,
word of mouth,
word
social
of mouth.
media, yeah, loads of different resources. Yeah.
Do you know something? So we do have a framework that we should go through. I just put it to one side and say, tell me about yourself. What do you stand for? What's important to you? What do you want to get out working with us? What kind of values do you have? Is it okay if every now and then we run behind because someone's got a surgical extraction? Is that going to be a big problem? You know, we ask those. Yeah, but then do you know what? If they lie in an interview, like I say, when the time comes that they actually have to action it, you'll find out anyway.
Yeah, and the other thing is you will start to attract people based on how you portray yourself in your business once you're out there. So as soon as people know who you are and you're out there, you're talking about your business, your vision, your values, the magical thing that happens is people that resonate with that start coming to you directly.
You will attract what you are. When back in the day when we weren't doing so well, we had a cohort of people who we had to hire because we were short-staffed, and they left pretty quickly because once we started changing, they couldn't keep up with the changes. But you know what, you've got to try and get to, if you can sit down and have an authentic conversation with someone, that is way more powerful and way more telling than going through some organized interview. What would you do if a difficult patient came? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything because that can be rehearsed, but authenticity pours out of you at every level. That's what you should look for, in my opinion. Just have a normal conversation with them.
Yep. There is, but I can help you with that. But also you can read the book and there's certain things in there. But there is a process of what to go through, how many team members you're going to need when you set up your practice. And even when it comes back to interviewing protocols, I wrote about it in the book, and we've been discussing it in the practice again this week. And we're recruiting again, and we're going to be asking people to come in for an interview at 7 o'clock in the morning, every single one. And what we're assessing is, well, look, if I say come in at 7 o'clock in the morning, how do they respond to that? Is it like, I can't come, I can't do it? Fair enough if you've got kids, there's life circumstances, fine. But really simply, we can start to assess their attitude, their motivation, the type of character they are. And if they turn up at 7 o'clock in the morning, do you turn up fresh? Are you ready? Are you a mess? It tells a lot about your character. What we're assessing is, like Sharan said very rightly, we're looking for character. We're not looking for skill set. Skill set comes second, character comes first, 100%. Yeah, I've been through this process, setting up the squat. Abby's, been with me for the longest now in the practice, but, I've had to fire numerous people in that business over the years as we've grown and expanded, and it was purely because I didn't do that in the beginning. I hired based on skill set and based on what other people wanted and what I thought I needed at the time, and it was not correct. I would have rather had a full team at the beginning who probably didn't actually know what they were doing, but they were just hungry and driven, and they would have figured it out with my guidance and motivation, rather than having experienced people who know what they're doing. There's big difference.
I mean, the thing is, if you hire somebody who knows what they're doing, but frankly nobody likes being with them, you're never going to get the best out of your team. Do you know what I mean? Because you won't gel with them on that kind of level. You have to. One of the biggest things that I think is under-leveraged in dentistry is actually your personality. If you can leverage your personality to your patients, to your team, you will create a whole environment where your patients become your raving fans. I'm not the best dentist, and my patients don't care that I carve all the anatomy in my composites, but they care that I didn't hurt them. They care that I asked about how their dog was, who just had a toenail removed or something like that. They care, no, but they do, and they care about the fact that I ask about their family, or I remember where they went on holiday. The soft skills are actually the really hard skills to manage. They're the hardest ones to develop, because not everybody's a natural extrovert either, but I think you can train yourself to be extroverted for your patients, because they're the ones who become your raving fans, and they're the ones who are my patients have been loyal to me for 20 years in that practice. Some of them have gone because they perhaps couldn't afford treatment when we transitioned to private, but the reason why our transition didn't tank is because of those patients who stayed loyal to us, because they've seen something in me, they've seen something in Alan, the team, and they had to stay because they didn't want to see anybody else. And if you can inculcate that into your patients now, you'll have patients that will give you longevity in your practice for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that's the secret sauce, I think. That is, leverage your personality, be a good person. You've got to remember that we are in the practice of medicine, and medicine is empathy. Empathy. If you can practice empathy and deliver a good composite, happy days, you'll all be so successful. I guarantee you will.
Yeah, and I say that all the time. We are healthcare professionals, number one. We went into dentistry because we care, we want to provide healthcare. Business comes second. And this is the biggest problem that's happened in the UK, not even in the UK, across other countries as well, with the advent of corporate dentistry, private equity money. Because with that comes no empathy, no care, because it's all about the business first and not about the healthcare. And in my opinion, through seeing what dentists have built through Squat Success, even ourselves, the number one practices that are winning at the moment are the ones who are building their practices based on healthcare and relationships. Corporates are not winning. We all see what's happening. When we recruit, we're getting 10, 15 CVs. All of them are coming from corporates. Why? There's a reason. People want to come back and work for us as independent practitioners in our squat practices, because we have a unique advantage, because we actually care about our patients. And money will come second. We can grow great businesses off the back of that. And it's not filthy, it's not dirty. Yeah. It's absolutely fine. Look, we're all in this. We have to make a living. But we do it off the back of healthcare first, not business first.
And please don't compare yourself to anybody as well. I know that you feel like life is actually, people go, life's too short. Well, life's actually pretty long as well, and you've got time to make decisions. And please don't compare yourself to the person down the road, or the dentist that flexes on Instagram because he's got 2 Ferraris and a private jet. It's bullshit anyway. You know what I mean? But try to do well, sleep at night, act ethically, and the money will flow as a consequence of that. I really thought that having a Porsche would make me happy. I got it and I thought, it's all right. It's all right. It's just, it kind of got me from A to B, and then I realised how expensive it is to service it, so I got rid of it. Do you know what I mean? But the things that you think are going to make you happy,
So I
and
told,
not the
yeah,
things that make you happy. Now I feel happy because actually I know that my team are well looked after. I know that I'm encouraging an environment where there's growth for everybody collectively. To me, that's leadership. Maybe I'm an all right dentist, but I know I'm a good leader because I got patients, I got team members who are there for the long term. And actually, funnily enough, when we started the process for opening the second site, the CVs that I got from really outstanding dentists who actually are moving away from corporates, who are being chased by corporates because of composite bonding and all that stuff, but they want to come and work for us because there is a sense of something else that we can offer that is not corporate driven. I say to Ellen all the time, I'd rather set that practice on fire than sell it to a corporate. Not that I would, but I don't want, if once it becomes corporate, it becomes toxic and it becomes diluted and it starts to move away from everything that you've spent your whole life building. And I just hope that I can run that place for another 20 years with the kind of standards of care that are really important to me. Keep that in mind because that is the most important thing. And we're not specialists, you know, we do general dentistry. Yep. We don't do anything special, but we do everything really well. So I think that's the difference as well. But don't be scared, go for it, guys. You know, you're all amazing. Like, look at everybody sat in this room, you know, in terms of academics, you're all dead smart, but don't let that imposter syndrome kill your dream. Don't, because life is just too short and long, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? But it is.
Well, that's the way I view it. And, you know, me and Raghav actually spoke about this morning. It's like, you know, if we're looking at, you know, next 30 years, everybody focuses on 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. I view all the businesses that we're working on, whatever we're doing, we're looking at the next 30, 40, 50 years. I don't know if any of you have ever read a book, but it's brilliant, by Simon Sinek called The Infinity Game. And, you know, the way he views businesses is, look, we're building stuff to last forever. So once we die, it's going to persist and it's going to exist no matter what. And once you can take that viewpoint on what you're doing, you don't have to be scared about tomorrow because, well, look, things are going to change. But if I'm thinking about it, you know, 100 years ahead, well, I'm not going to be here anyway, but I might have built something that lasts and sustains itself, and I've left a mark on the world. So we're very, very short term in our thinking when it comes to business. We need to be thinking that 30, 40 years, we can do a lot. Look, 12 months, 24 months, it's not the end of the world if things are a bit slower, but in the long term, long game, look, we're going to have potentially kids, grandkids, whatever. There's going to be something there for them. And that's the way I view it. I'm always looking at that. Also, for me personally, knowing that, I don't feel as scared about everything that I'm doing going forwards because I'm not scared about tomorrow because I'm thinking, well, in 30 years, if this comes to light and everything works out well, great, this is going to be amazing. I don't have to worry about tomorrow. So it's just reframing that in your head. That most of us are not going to retire till we're in our 60s, 70s. Most of us are probably, you know, in our 30s, I'd imagine, maybe some a little bit younger, some a little bit older, but you still got about another 30 years in the game, likely. Some people might want to retire younger, it's fine, but when you look at it from that point of view, I don't need to worry about tomorrow. I've got a long time yet, like Sharan said. Life is short, yes, but however, 30 years is still a long time. We can do a lot of stuff in that time.
Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery. Take each day as it comes. Don't project too far in the future. Don't sit and ruminate on stuff that's happened in the past. It's too late to change it. You can't change what's happened before you. Learn from it and move on. And constantly do that soul searching. Make yourself a better person. And then if you're a better person, you'll be a better leader. You'll be a better friend. You'll be a better mother. You know, you'll be able to teach your children how to be leaders for the future, and that's really the kind of legacy you should be thinking about because, you know, in 100 years from now, none of us are going to be here. It don't make a difference. It don't matter, does it?
Yeah, we think too small.
We do.
We think we're just dentists, but we're not. We are a lot more in life.
If I can retire knowing that I took care of those patients in that little patch of earth that was given to me by whoever, I'll be proud of that. That's, for me, is legacy enough. You know, children can make their own money. I'm not giving it to them. I'm spending it on myself. I'm triple wishing. You know, it's nice to have it as an option, but don't give them too much. Don't spoil them. Don't spoil them. Let them do the hard work themselves.
You said that now, but wait till you have them. And they're knocking on your door.
But you know, I'm just saying that give yourself the freedom to do whatever you want with whatever you acquire, and enjoy it for yourself before you give it to somebody else, because you've earned it, you've worked hard. Let them create their own path for the future. Okay. You can give them enough. Give them good morals. Give them good standards. Give them a framework to be better people. They'll generate their own wealth. Exactly.
They will carve their own pathways, looking at your journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. So if I change my mind about a Porsche again, I can have it. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Listen, I am not. Do you know what? There's a lot of nepotism in dentistry, right? Whether people address it in the room or not, there is some nepotism. You know, my parents didn't give me a head start. I didn't come from money. We came from a very average, simple background. I'm very middle class. But my parents gave me the self-belief and the confidence to go out there and achieve everything that I wanted to. That's the biggest gift that they could have given me. And in fact, you know what? Back when me and Alan bought that practice, if my mum and dad would have said, here's 100 grand to get yourself started, my self-respect wouldn't have actually allowed me to take it, because I thought, no, I want to do it on my own. And I did. I put my house up for security. I'd rather take that risk than jeopardize my parents' money. But that's just me.
What Sharan did mention is, and we've spoken about this, our parents used to beat us when we were little.
Yeah.
And you can't do that to your kids anymore.
You know, is it, you know, when you talk about like when you talk about your parents coming from a different land and having nothing. My mum is she's as smart as a whip, my mum. She's so sassy, she's so intelligent, and she came to this country after marrying my dad. But she has no confidence. And even though my dad said to her, come on, you can do something, she lost her bottle. And then she put all of her effort into honing me and my sister to be the people that stand here today. And you know something, when Bobby first asked me to do this, I'm not going to lie, I thought, what am I going to say to these people? How can I give these people any kind of wisdom and knowledge? But I have forced myself to do this today. I have really, my legs are still shaking. I've got butterflies. I'm honestly, because I want to talk honestly to everybody in the room. You know, we are just dentists, but we're human beings first, and we've got to look after each other, because dentistry is such a lonely profession. You can wilt and die in that clinic room every single day. You cannot even, you know, go out and have a wee or a cup of tea. Sometimes it's so busy, right? You know, honestly. So how about let's look after each other, you know? And, you know, when dentists, I don't ever see any dentist as competition. Even the people up the road who try to copy it, whatever, I think you're my colleague. And I'll love you and look after you the way I'd look after anybody else, because there's space for all of us to eat. There's plenty of space for everybody in dentistry. I do believe that. But, you know, let's look after each other first, look after our team, cultivate a real honest relationship with your team, because the team that you build now are the ones that will determine your success in 5, 10, 15 years from now. And we're also a proof of that. My practice manager's been with us for 22 years. Our head nurse has been with us for 20 years. You know, Owen's going to stay with us until he retires.
We're hiring at the moment, just so you know.
No, you're not. Abby, I'm hiring. I was going to say, Abby, I'm hiring. You know, but it's, you know, being a dentist, it's not just, you're not just a dentist, are you? You have to expand your thinking about, I'm a teacher, I'm a friend, I'm a confidant. I'm so much more to my team and my patients than actually we give ourselves credit for. I know all sorts of stuff about my patients. They talk to me so freely. If you can cultivate that kind of relationship and it's honest and it's authentic, like I say, they'll be your patients for life. And try to enjoy this journey as well, by the way, because I know it's dead stressful, because everything seems so insurmountable when the shit hits the fan. But there's nothing that actually you can't overcome, because there's not a single problem in any one of your lives that you haven't managed to overcome in some way. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes for you to get to the very depths of your being. Sometimes it takes intense struggle. But each time that cycle happens, you end up being stronger for it. And that's also really important. Okay, so...
And Sharan, just touching upon that then, just to go through the journey. So how did you get from going through that conversion then to second site and being able to grow and do what you're doing at the moment?
So we did the conversion with Practice Plan 2.5 years ago. Practice Plan, so I know there's lots of plan providers out there, right? But whoever you go with, make sure that they stress test your financials very intensely. Make sure that they look at your accounts and look at how many NHS patients you've got, how many numbers of patients you need to convert, what plans you need to set in place, how much you can afford as your lowest monthly plan, what you could sell as your middle tier, what your higher tiered plans are, and get them to test it to see how many patients you can comfortably afford to lose and still maintain your monthly income. So I think that's really important. So get your financials in order. And then when we did the conversion, as much as I could, I spoke to as many patients face to face. This is the reasons why we're doing it. We can't afford to work under an NHS system anymore. It's not good for the long-term growth of the business. So we had the face-to-face conversation, but we also wrote a letter as well. And then off the back of that letter, we got a massive influx. So we needed to convert about 40% of our NHS list. We managed to convert 70, right? So, but then a lot of people actually went pay as you go as well. So they just didn't join the plan, but they did still come for their regular checkups. But once you put that message out there, keep going. Don't apologize for going private, right? Don't seem like you're upset about it or it's something bad that you've done, and don't let people make you feel guilty about it. If you understand and explain the reasons properly, there'll always be some people who just, whatever you do, they're not going to like you because you're a dentist, right? But the people who do respect you, the people who do have faith in you, they're the ones that'll keep on coming back, and then start focusing on new patient acquisition, right? For every patient that might drop off, make sure you've got a way of getting another 2 patients in. That's the best way to grow your business. So we did that 2 years ago. And then I said to Alan, we've not got enough space. We've got where we are, there's a lot of elderly people and our surgeries are upstairs. So a lot of our patients are having to wait far too long, to be seen, especially if you're offering a private service, they need to be seen quickly. So I was walking to the corner shop and I seen this I seen this shop up for sale. And I just knocked on and I said, because there was work going on, I said, can I have a look inside, please? So I just barged in, just made my way in. I just looked and I said, yeah, Alan, this is it. And then I went back and I said, Alan, we're buying that. He went, you are? I said, yeah, we're buying that second site. He went, are you sure? I went, yeah, we're buying it. And then we bought it. That's it. It's that simple. We got Jawad. No, we got funding from, Jawad helped us in the whole process. And at that point, we got Bobby on board because I'm being a bit blasé. We didn't just go, oh, I'll buy it. We've got all our ducks in a row first. But that's the only way. Sometimes just a little leap of faith, just a little bit of, let's do it. Let's push ourselves, And then Bobby helped us, got the right. And this isn't a shout out to it's not like a thing to join Bobby's Squat Success, but the people that helped for us to acquire that second site, it was Bobby, it was Jawad. There are so many people. Joe films our inorganic content for us. Vendo do our social media and our marketing. Getting all the right people in place to maximize that opportunity is also really important. Brad Gate, there he is. Wave, Brad. We're buying all our chairs off him. If you say Sharan Special, they give you a 10% discount. No, he won't.
No, Squat Success, it's 50%.
Yeah, so optimize all the people around your core team to get you to where you want to be as well, because that's really important, because I wouldn't have known how to do this if it wasn't for Bobby, if it wasn't for Jawad, if it wasn't for, he's gone now, but Brad, north of Leicester, they're doing our building work on our second site. So, I love Elliot to bits. It's a shame he's not here today, but he's an absolutely cracking human being and he's a great builder as well. Very transparent, very honest. And he gets a job done as well. Don't bullshit you. In 2 weeks, love. No, if he's there and he's working and he's grafting. So choose wisely about who you bring on your journey. Talk to builders, talk to Bobby, talk to people around you who know way more. I'm always the dumbest person in the room. I don't know anything. I let other people.
What would you say has been the hardest part in growth?
I want to do it yesterday. I'm impatient. I want to do it. Do you know what? When you release yourself from the shackles of NHS dentistry, this whole world opens up in front of you, and then you realise that you want to do it like now. You want to do it quick. So waiting. I should have done it 3 months ago.
Impatience.
I am dead impatient though. I am really impatient. Go on. I don't. Actually, do you know what? I like clothes, I buy shoes, I read books, I go out for a walk. My next thing, right, so everybody laughs when I say this, and Owen's probably going to, my next task for the new site, our practice is going to be the first practice in Tameside that has a therapy dog on site. That is my next task. I am going to train a therapy dog, right, to provide patient comfort if they're nervous or they're stressed, and that dog is going to be on site when I'm on site. And it's not just it's like it's actual proper qualification. Like that dog's got to be, it can't just be a dog that runs around. You know what I mean? It's got to be a trained. That is my next task. That is going to be the unique selling point of Thornley Park Dental. We are going to have a therapy dog on site. That's mine. It's a great idea. Loads of American practices do it. In America, comfort dogs. There's loads of comfort dogs, Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would take that dog to the children's hospital, I would take it into schools. I mean, like Kev touched on, going to schools. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it'll be my dog that I bring to work, really, innit? The therapy will be more for me. But do you know what? I try to come up with unique and different ways to set your practice apart, But the therapy dog is on the cards for me. We are definitely doing that. It's great for the team as well. You know what? Enjoy your practices. Make them like your home. You have to. You've got to. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes from setting them structure and then rewarding them appropriately. We were never in the financial position where we could give people structured bonuses, etc. But now when someone does a good job, we look at it and we review pay quite regularly as well. We always make sure that as the services are uplifted, the pay is uplifted appropriately as well, because everybody needs to put food on the table. It's not fair to expect for people to work at the level you want them to work at and not pay them appropriately. We take the team out a lot. We do a lot of social events. We pay for uniform. We pay for GDC registration. We pay for courses that people want to go on. It builds commitment to the practice, and it shows that you're reinvesting in them. And we do appraisals. We are going to start we did appraisals once a year. It's not enough to test the temperature of what your team are feeling. So now our appraisals under Bobby's advice are going to be a lot more frequent, a lot more often. I would say quarterly.
Abby's, yeah, quarterly. But also Abby is now having weekly check-ins with the whole team. Yeah. So there's a whole system behind that, what we're building and putting into the practice. But even on a simpler basis to what Sharon said, all of that stuff is absolutely fine. And we do a lot of that as well. But actually it is just actually caring about other people and giving a shit about them.
Yeah. Did we have associates? Yeah, they're not there anymore.
Yeah. I was going to say that was one because I'm at a point where I'm going to get to soon, hopefully.
So when you say associates, when we bought the practice, the principal stayed on as an associate, and this is another thing, right, that I think is a double-edged sword. In my opinion, when I come to sell my practice, I'm selling it and I'm going. I'm not staying on, because when I sell it...
Bear in mind what you say, Michael bought his dad's practice.
No, I know, but you know what? You want to create a practice that is for you, and when you have some... No, but it makes it very difficult for you to stamp your own leadership on your team. It makes it because things have been done in a very specific way for such a long time, and that associate or whoever it is that stays on in the practice after you've bought it can, without any negative intention, just subliminally become a problem in your practice, and we gave it the appropriate amount of time before we decided that it's not going to work. So in my opinion, you know, we have been through a few associates as well. Like when we were at NHS, you kind of have to hire who you can when you can, because we've got UDAs to deliver. When you're private, you can hire a lot more selectively, even associates. I mean, you know, it's like what you said about, you know, inviting people to interview at 7 o'clock. I had this one guy who was so desperate for an interview, he came to the practice at 9 o'clock at night. And we sat there for like 2 hours. I thought, will you go home now? And I gave him the job anyway, but it just shows commitment. So yes, we have got associates. The new associates that are starting have all actually pursued us. We didn't pursue them. They sent their CVs to us and said, we really want to work for you. Which is why I think you need to maintain an authentic persona on social media as well. You know, we don't sell composite bonding. You'll never see any of my before and afters, because I don't think it's what brings people in actually. What? No. So we tried to sort of keep them on a part-time basis, 3 days a week. But the thing is, when you have a principal who's still on site, they want to do things their own way still. They're resistant to change. The patients are resistant to change. They only want to see that person. So then their diary gets clogged up for weeks and weeks in advance, even when there's other people that are prepared to see those patients. Now, I only want to see so-and-so. Doesn't work. The things that they used to refuse you in terms of materials, they start asking for. Right? So if that starts becoming too much of it, even the team, you know, if they, well, you know, let's for anonymity's sake, call this person Judy. Well, when Judy had the business, she never used to run it like this. When Judy had the business, it was always, Judy used to let me come in 15 minutes late every day, but Judy ain't your boss no more. You know, you can't complain about what you accept. If you're willing to accept it, you can't complain about it. So you have to set the tone. So at some point, you've got to sit down and have a conversation with Judy and say, look, Judy, this is the new rules. And if you ain't changing, then...
It's exactly what Raghav spoke about this morning, setting expectations and agreements. Yeah, you're the boss now. This is the expectation. This is the agreement. Do you agree? And now it's accountable. Yeah.
You know, one of the hardest things to do is reverse a culture that is so ingrained in the whole tone of your practice. And sometimes the best way to do that is by delivering a real hard shock to the system for everybody. Not in a nasty way, but there has to feel like there is a seismic change in your practice, that actually what was acceptable 2 years ago, 5 years ago, the stuff that you were allowed to get away with because your boss wasn't a strong leader, is actually what you're not allowed to get away with now. And you either accept it and you get on board, or you get off on the next station. The amount of time that you will waste micromanaging people who shouldn't be in your practice, focus on uplifting and actually managing the people who do want to be in your business. You'll feel better for it, they'll feel better for it, and actually you'll end up with a nicer environment. Sometimes you have to do really hard stuff to get over the hump and see the other side of it. But whilst you're in the thick of it and it feels awful, it is horrible. There's no lie, it's horrible to deal with that. It's just, it's ugh.
But even on that point, from a financial perspective, when you have team members in your business who are not doing what they need to be doing, and if you were actually to put maths behind it and work out the inefficiency within that, you would realize it's costing you a hell of a lot more money to keep that team member than it will be to actually take the hard action and replace them and take them out of your business.
If you recognize things are starting to go sideways, the most important thing that you can start to do is create a paper trail, right? You need physical evidence of what that person is doing and how it's negatively impacting your business, because you can't go to them with conjecture. You can't go to them with hearsay. You need hard facts. So say, for instance, there's a receptionist, right? And she's not handling the calls in the way that your expected standard has been. our calls have always been recorded, right? So I went back and I audited 100 calls of this person. And then I got my practice manager and me. We sat with this particular person and we just picked out 10 of the worst. But there was like a lot more than that. And we just said, now explain why you dealt with that call that way. If you confront someone with the physical evidence of their actions, it's very difficult for them to go, oh, I was just having a bad day. What, 15 times in a row? On different and then you give them a clear strategy, you put an improvement plan in place to give that person the opportunity to change their ways, right? And you make it very structured, very simple, very clear, and then you watch them like a hawk. And if they pick up the pace and they turn it around, great. If they don't, you exit them. But you can't just...
How do you prevent creating a way where you're forcing them out? Because that's horrible.
You can't force anybody out.
What I mean is people create hostile environments to force people
Yeah, but we don't do that. Why would you? But yeah, if you create a hostile environment, all that does is it trickles down to the rest of your team, and they will feel that hostility, and that is the most toxic poison you can spread in your practice. You deal with that person on their own.
Yeah, and it's performance based. So like I said, if you've got an expectation, this is what should be happening. Look, at that point, it's all performance based. It's not hostile.
So in terms of, you set the tone. You set the, like I say, you set the temperature of your practice. If your personality, if your body language, if the way you articulate and express what you want your team to behave, they listen, it's human nature. Even in animal kingdom, they'll smell out the weakest of the pack and they'll start. But if you're the weakest of the pack, you ain't got no choice. So you've got to be the strongest of the pack, and then you have to project that. This didn't happen overnight, right? When I first bought that practice, I was a shitbag. I was scared of telling anybody anything. I was scared because this particular receptionist, we gave her the opportunity to change. She didn't, and Owen will attest to this. She ended up leaving in a police van. That's how bad that got. The police ended up coming to the practice because she said, I'm going to kick your effing head in, you effing bitch. I can't believe you fired me. Am I wrong, Owen? You know? Do you know why? Because it's sink or swim. You have to choose. If you let that keep happening, and your practice starts to fail as a result of it, you're responsible for it. So you can't blame that receptionist for acting like a fool because you allowed her to. But if it's making you feel ill, if it's impacting your relationships at home, if it's stopping you from sleeping and eating, and your world is consumed by this receptionist who's ruining your business, do you know what, can I be honest? You've just got to grow a pair.
Yeah. So I'll tell you,
Gotta grow a pair.
in the first 6 months, I mean, I've told the story before, some of you might have heard it, but, I started with one nurse, and she was stroke PM, and a receptionist. The receptionist came from out of dentistry. She was an air hostess, started, great people person, loved people, got on really well with patients. I was only there 3 days a week when I set up Hostel, an associate 2 days a week, and started to realise she was planning her wedding. Started to see the Google history, and turned out on the days where I wasn't in the practice, she was just sat on Google all day planning a wedding. Yeah, and I could see her, she didn't have the decency to delete her own internet history. So I had the conversation with her a couple of times. I was like, look, can't be doing this, need to be doing X, Y, Z, etc. And then weeks went on, and same thing again, happened again. And I let it roll for around about 6 months, and I should have fired her after about a month, if that, as soon as I knew, had the conversation, had an opportunity to discuss it. I was shit scared to do that because I'm a new practice owner, never had to have this type of conversation before. I don't know HR, I don't know how all this stuff works. Spoke to an independent HR consultant, got the advice, and she told me what to do. Said, I'm happy to do it for you if you want me to. And I said, no, I'm going to do it. I need to learn. So sat her down one Friday afternoon, end of the day, discussed it all. Palpitations, literally. I was sweating. I was just, I was shit scared. I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know what she was going to do. Didn't know what she was going to say. And she came back with all sorts afterwards. I mean, nothing went anywhere. She's not been in the business 2.5 years. However, it was horrible. However, going through that process gave me confidence then to do it again. And we've had to do it numerous times since then. And now I don't bat an eyelid if that happens, if I have to have difficult conversations. But all it was in that first instance, I forced myself to do it. And because I did it, I've learned, and now I'm more resilient. And now, whatever happens going forwards, I'm not scared of difficult conversations. We have them all the time, look, across all the businesses. But you have to start.
Yeah. Do you know the other thing that's really important, right? Having difficult conversations is not necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes somebody can behave in a certain way due to reasons that you're not even privy to until you just sit down and go, what's going on with you? This is not usually how you are. Like, what's going on? And they might tell you things that are going on in their life that actually think, oh, okay, maybe you need a little bit of leeway. Maybe actually you need a little bit of love and care to get you back on the right path. Don't assume that having a bad conversation or an uncomfortable conversation leads to necessarily negative outcomes. Sometimes it's the best thing that can happen to that person and you, because you know you've got clarity, you know what's going on in that person's life. You can help them as much as you possibly can to improve how they are at work. You know, work is work, but you know, people have very complicated lives outside of work. They're dealing with the death of a parent, sickness, a child that they might be struggling with. They might be struggling to pay their bills. You don't know what's going on in other people's lives, you know. So you've got to treat people with the same kind of compassion that you would expect yourself to be treated with in very difficult circumstances. You know, I've cried in front of every single staff member numerous occasions when it's just, you know, when it's just too much and you just think, well, you all just... No, I'm serious, right? Do you know what I mean? And then you cry. You live in the moment for a sec, you get over it, and you're like, right, everybody, so what are we doing for the next quarter? Do you know what I mean? But they have to, if you expect them to see the humanity in you, you have to return that to them when they might not be performing at their best. You've got to ask why first before you jump to conclusions and you start doing all the disciplinaries and the written this, that, and the other. Just speak to people like human beings first. It's so important.
Yeah, that comes back down to the point I said earlier. Look, you can go through all different strategies about building teams and whatever else it is, all this fancy stuff. But ultimately, the easiest and simplest way to do it is actually just to care about people. It's as simple as that. Care about the people that work in your business. They're going to be building your business with you, for you. Actually give a shit about them. Simple.
It's true.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to have to end it there, Sharon.
I could talk for another 2 hours, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for giving this amazing opportunity. Bobby, next year I want...
I want to thank you.
I do love him, you know. I do love him. He's dead nice, isn't he? Where's my delay?